Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. Read for LibriVox.org by Chris Greer. It was a many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child, in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I, my Annabel Lee. With a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lay down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the surrounding sea. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Apple Gathering by Christina Georgina Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by Samantha Ann Robertson. I plucked pink blossoms from mine apple tree and wore them all that evening in my hair. Then, in due season, when I went to see, I found no apples there. With dangling basket all along the grass, as I had come I went the self-same track. My neighbors mocked me while they saw me pass, so empty-handed back. Lillian and Lilius smiled in trudging by, their heaped-up basket teased me like a jeer. Sweet-voiced they sang beneath the sunset sky, their mother's home was near. Plump Gertrude passed me with her basket full, a stronger hand than hers helped it along. A voice talked with her through the shadows cool, more sweet to me than song. Ah, Willie, Willie, was my love less worth than apples with their green leaves piled above? I counted rosiest apples on the earth, of far less worth than love. So once it was with me you stooped to talk, laughing and listening in this very lane, to think that by this way we used to walk, we shall not walk again. I let my neighbors pass me, ones and twos, and groups the latest said the night grew chill, and hastened, but I loitered while the dews fell fast, I loitered still. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An April Adoration by Charles G.D. Roberts. Read for LibriVox.org by Sherr. Sang the sunrise on an amber morn, Earth, be glad, an April day is born. Winter's done, and April's in the skies, Earth, look up with laughter in your eyes. Putting off her dumb dismay of snow, Earth bade all her unseen children grow. Then the sound of growing in the air rose to God a liturgy of prayer. And the throng succession of the days uttered up to God a psalm of praise. Laugh the running sap in every vein, laugh the running flurries of warm rain. Laugh the life in every wandering root, laugh the tingling cells of bud and shoot. God in all the concord of the mirth heard the adoration song of earth. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Auguries of Innocence by William Blake, read for LibriVox.org by Samantha Ann Robertson. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. A robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. A dove house filled with doves and pigeons shudders hell through all its regions. A dog starved at his master's gate predicts the ruin of the state. A horse misused upon the road calls to heaven for human blood. Each outcry of the hunted hare a fibre from the brain does tear. A skylark wounded in the wing, a cherubim does cease to sing. The gamecock clipped and armed for fight does the rising sun affright. Every wolf's and lion's howl raises from hell a human soul. The wild deer wandering here and there keeps the human soul from care. The lamb misused breeds public strife and yet forgives the butcher's knife. The bat that flits at close of eve has left the brain that won't believe. The owl that calls upon the night speaks the unbeliever's fright. He who shall hurt the little wren shall never be beloved by men. He who the ox to wrath has moved shall never be by woman loved. The wanton boy that kills the fly shall feel the spider's enmity. He who torments the chafer's sprite weaves a bower in endless night. The caterpillar on the leaf repeats to thee thy mother's grief. Kill not the moth nor butterfly, for the last judgment draweth nigh. He who shall train the horse to war shall never pass the polar bar. The beggar's dog and widow's cat, feed them, and thou wilt grow fat. The gnat that sings his summer song poison gets from slander's tongue. The poison of the snake and newt is the sweat of envy's foot. The poison of the honey bee is the artist's jealousy. The prince's robes and beggar's rags are toadstools on the miser's bags. A truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies you can invent. It is right it should be so. Man was made for joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, through the world we safely go. Joy and woe are woven fine, a clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. The babe is more than swaddling bands throughout all these human lands. Tools were made and born were hands. Every farmer understands. Every tear from every eye becomes a babe in eternity. This is caught by females bright and returned to its own delight. The bleat, the bark, bellow and roar are waves that beat on heaven's shore. The babe that weeps the rod beneath writes revenge in realms of death. The beggar's rags fluttering in air does to rags the heavens tear. The soldier armed with sword and gun palsied strikes the summer sun. The poor man's farthing is worth more than all the gold on Afric's shore. One mite wrung from the laborer's hands shall buy and sell the miser's lands, or if protected from on high, does that whole nation sell and buy. He who mocks the infant's faith shall be mocked in age and death. He who shall teach the child to doubt the rotting grave shall ne'er get out. He who respects the infant's faith triumphs over hell and death. The child's toys and the old man's reasons are the fruits of the 2 seasons. The questioner who sits so sly shall never know how to reply. He who replies to words of doubt doth put the light of knowledge out. The strongest poison ever known came from Caesar's laurel crown. Naught can deform the human race like to the armour's iron brace. When gold and gems adorn the plough, to peaceful arts shall envy bow. A riddle or the cricket's cry is to doubt a fit reply. The emmet's inch and eagle's mile make lame philosophy to smile. He who doubts from what he sees will ne'er believe, do what you please. If the sun and moon should doubt, they'd immediately go out. To be in a passion you good may do, but no good if a passion is in you. The whore and gambler by the state licensed build that nation's fate. The harlot's cry from street to street shall weave old England's winding sheet. The winners shout, the losers curse, dance before dead England's hearse. Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Some are born to sweet delight, some are born to endless night. We're led to believe a lie when we see not through the eye, which was born in a night, to perish in a night. When the soul slept in beams of light, God appears, and God is light to those poor souls who dwell in night. But does a human form display to those who dwell in realms of day. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Better Things by George MacDonald. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Better to smell a violet than sip the careless wine. Better to list one music tone than watch the jewels shine. Better to have the love of one than smiles like morning dew. Better to have a living seed than flowers of every hue. Better to feel a love within than to be lovely to the sight. Better a homely tenderness than beauty's wild delight. Better to love than be beloved, though lonely all the day. Better the fountain in the heart than the fountain by the way. Better a feeble love to God than for woman's love to pine. Better to have the making God than the woman made divine. Better be fed by mother's hand than eat alone at will. Better to trust in God than say, my goods my storehouse fill. Better to be a little wise than learned overmuch. Better than high are lowly thoughts, for truthful thoughts are such. Better than thrill a listening crowd, sit at a wise man's feet. But better teach a child than toil to make thyself complete. Better to walk the realm unseen than watch the hour's event. Better the smile of God alway than the voice of men's consent. Better to have a quiet grief than a tumultuous joy. Better than manhood's age's face if the heart be of a boy. Better the thanks of one dear heart than a nation's voice of praise. Better the twilight ere the dawn than yesterday's mid-blaze. Better a death when work is done than earth's most favored birth. Better a child in God's great house than the king of all the earth. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Brook in the City by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Richa. The farmhouse lingers, through hours to square, with the new city street it has to wear, a number in. But what about the brook that held the house as in an elbow crook? I ask, as one who knew the brook, its strength and impulse, having dipped a finger length, and made it leap my knuckle, having tossed a flower to try its currents where they crossed. The meadow grass could be cemented down from growing under pavements of a town. The apple trees be sent to hearthstone flame. Is water wood to serve a brook the same? How else dispose of an immortal force, no longer needed, staunch it at its source? With cinder loads dumped down, the brook was thrown deep in a sewer dungeon under stone. In fetid darkness still to live and run, and all for nothing it had ever done, except forget to go in fear perhaps. No one would know, except for ancient maps, that such a brook ran water, but I wonder if, from its being kept forever under, these thoughts may not have risen that so keep this new-built city from both work and sleep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cowgirl by Anonymous, read for LibriVox.org by Lee Vogler. The Cowgirl. My love is a rider in broncos he breaks, but he's given up riding and all for my sake. For he found him a horse and it suited him so, he vowed he'd ne'er ride any other bronco. My love is a gun and that gun he can use, but he's quit his gun fighting as well as his booze. And he sold him his saddle, his spurs, and his rope, and there's no more cow punching, and that's what I hope. My love is a gun that has gone to the bad, which makes poor old Jimmy feel pretty damn sad. For the gun it shoots high and the gun it shoots low, and it wobbles about like a bucking bronco. The cook is an unfortunate son of a gun. He has got to be up ere the rise of the sun. His language is awful, his curses are deep. He is like cascarettes, for he works while you sleep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Cry of the Homeless, After the Prussian Invasion of Belgium, by Thomas Hardy. Read for LibriVox.org by Joanna Michael Hoyt. Instigator of the ruin, whichsoever thou mayst be of the masterful of Europe that contrived our misery, hear the wormwood-worded greeting from each city, shore, and lee of thy victims. Conqueror, all hail to thee! Yea, all hail, we grimly shout thee that wast author, fount, and head of these wounds, whoever proven when our times are throughly read. May thy loved be slighted, blighted, and forsaken, be it said by thy victims, and thy children beg their bread. Nay, a richer malediction, rather let this thing befall in times hurling and unfurling on the night when comes thy call. Let compassion dew thy pillow and bedrench thy senses all for thy victims, till death dark thee with his pall. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dance of Death by Charles Baudelaire, read for LibriVox by Clayton Kelly. Carrying bouquet and handkerchief and gloves, proud of her height as when she lived, she moves, with all the careless and high-stepping grace and the extravagant courtesan's thin face. With slimmer waist ere in a ballroom wooed, her floating robe in royal amplitude falls in deep folds around a dry foot shod with a bright flower-like shoe that gems the sod. The swarms that hum about her collarbones, as the lascivious streams caress the stones, conceal from every scornful jest that flies her gloomy beauty and her fathomless eyes. Are made of shade and void, with flowery sprays, her skull is wreathed artistically and sways. Feeble and weak on her frail vertebrae, O charm of nothing decked in folly, they who laugh and name you a caricature, they see not, they whom flesh and blood allure, the nameless grace of every bleached bare bone that is most dear to me, tall skeleton. Come you to trouble with your potent sneer the feast of life, or are you driven here to pleasure's Sabbath by dead lusts that stir and goad your moving corpse on with a spur? Or do you hope, when sing the violins, and the pale candle flame lights up our sins, to drive some mocking nightmare far apart, and cool the flame hell-lighted in your heart? Fathomless well of fault and foolishness, eternal alembic of antique distress, still o'er the curved white trellis of your sides the sateless wandering serpent curls and glides. And truth to tell, I fear lest you should find among us here no lover to your mind. Which of these hearts beat for the smile you gave? The charms of horror please none but the brave. Your eyes' black gulf, where awful brooding stir brings giddiness, the prudent reveller sees while a horror grips him from beneath the eternal smile of 32 white teeth. For he who has not folded in his arms a skeleton, nor fed on graveyard charms, reeks not of furbelow or paint or scent, when horror comes the way that beauty went. O irresistible with fleshless face, say to these dancers in their dazzled race, proud lovers with the paint above your bones, ye shall taste death, musk-scented skeletons. Withered on two dandies with plump faces, ye varnished cadavers and grey lovelaces, ye go to lands unknown and void of breath, drawn by the rumour of the dance of death. From Seine's cold quays to Ganges' burning stream, the mortal troops dance onward in a dream. They do not see within the open sky the angel's sinister trumpet raised on high. In every clime and under every sun, death laughs at ye, mad mortals, as ye run, and oft perfumes herself with myrrh like ye, and mingles with your madness irony. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dark Pool by Frances Hard. From Weird Tales, April, 1924. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. It lies beneath a sunless sky, deep in the entrails of a bog. Gnarled willows hide it, lifting high their tortured arms, and never frog, nor newt, nor toad, nor dragonfly dare to come within its deadly fog. For evil spirits there are bound within its slime, an impious rune they chant, nor is there other sound, but wicked whispers out of tune, as undead things that there lie drowned obscenely mutter to the moon. The nightshade petals in its dank and fetid vapors darkly bloom. Black orchids on its silent bank insinuate a sick perfume, and from its depths ooze up the rank and gassy stenches of the tomb. For potencies of witchcraft fell are buried in its slimy bed, and deathly blasphemies that well and bubble up with grisly dread, from things that in its water dwell, from things that died but are not dead. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Day of the Lord by Charles Kingsley. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. The day of the Lord is at hand, at hand. Its storms roll up the sky. The nations sleep starving on heaps of gold. All dreamers toss and sigh. The night is darkest before the morn. When the pain is sorest, the child is born, and the day of the Lord at hand. Gather you, angels of God, freedom and mercy and truth. Come, for the earth is grown coward and old. Come down and renew us her youth. Wisdom, self-sacrifice, daring and love. Haste to the battlefield, stoop from above to the day of the Lord at hand. Gather you, hounds of hell, famine and plague and war, idleness, bigotry, cant, and misrule. Gather and fall in the snare. Hireling and Mammonite, bigot and knave, crawl to the battlefield, sneak to your grave, in the day of the Lord at hand. Who would sit down and sigh for a lost age of gold, while the Lord of all ages is here? True hearts will leap up at the trumpet of God, and those who can suffer can dare. Each old age of gold was an iron age too, and the meekest of saints may find stern work to do in the day of the Lord at hand. On the Torridge, Devonshire, September 10, 1849. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Death the Revealer by F. W. Harvey. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. Within this dim 5-windowed house of sense, I watch through coloured glass the shapes that pass. Soon must I journey hence, to meet the great winds of the outer world, and see, when God has turned the key, the true and terrible colours of his scheme, which now I dream. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
De Profundis by Edith Nesbit. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Now I am cast into the serpent pit, and catching difficult breath from the writhing, loathsome, ceaseless stir of it, the venomous whispers of curling, clasping death, I lift my soul out of the pit to thee, and reaching with my soul to where thou art, look down, seeing with free heart the beast God gave my soul for company, lie with companions fit, and bid with a good will the serpent fangs of ill take their foul fill of the foul fell it wore. Though 1,000 serpent heads were raised to slay, 1,000 twisting coils writhed where it lay. There lies the beast, there let it lie for me and agonize and rave, for thou hast raised my soul, thy soul, to thee. Thy soul, dear Lord, thou hast been strong to save.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The End of the Chapter by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Read for LibriVox.org by Samantha Ann Robertson. Ah, yes, the chapter ends today. We even lay the book away. But oh, how sweet the moments sped before the final page was read. We tried to read between the lines the author's deep concealed designs, but scant reward such search secures. You saw my heart, and I saw yours. The master, he who penned the page and bade us read it, he is sage, and what he orders you and I can but obey, nor question why. We read together and forgot the world about us. Time was not. Unheeded and unfelt it fled. We read, and hardly knew we read. Until beneath the sadder sun we came to know the book was done. Then, as our minds were but new lit, it dawned upon us what was writ. And we were startled. In our eyes looked forth the light of great surprise. Then as a deep-toned tocsin tolls, a voice spoke forth, "Behold your souls." I do. I cannot look into your eyes, so close the book. But brought it grief or brought it bliss, no other page shall read like this. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Faint Shadow of the Morning Moon by Yone Noguchi. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. The faint shadow of the morning moon? Nay, the snow falling on the earth. The mist of blossoming flowers? Nay, poetry smiling up the sky. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Fire Vase by Natalia Crane. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. Said the potter to the flower pots, it's a question of design. Must I hold my hands forever from the images divine? He ran a royal pattern and he shaped a wondrous vase. From the peach bloom drew his color, from the rose blend drew his glaze. Came collectors of ceramics, connoisseurs who stayed to yearn. Something wonderful was hidden 'neath the cover of that urn. Some said 'twas filled with roses, others wagered it was wine. One said it might be empty as a part of the design. Nearly all of the appraisers for the outside made their bid, but the one who bought the beauty dreamed of what was 'neath the lid. He set it on his cottage hearth, the vase before the fire, and the cover rose in answer to a very old desire. And through the peach bloom color and the rose bend of the glaze, he saw love's lost illusions safe within the potter's vase. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The First Hole at St. Andrew's on a Crowded Day by J.M. Corner. Read for LibriVox.org by Bvince. 'Tis morn, and man awakes by sleep refreshed to do whatever he has to do with zest. But at St. Andrew's, where my scene is laid, one only thought can enter every head, the thought of golf, to wit, and that engages men of all sizes, tempers, ranks, and ages. The root, the primum mobile of all, the epidemic of the club and ball. The work by day, the source of dreams by night, the never-failing fountain of delight. Here, Mr. Philip, clubmaker, is as great as Philip, as any minister of state, and every caddy as professed a hero as Captain Cook or Wellington or Nero. For instance, Davy, oldest of the cads, who gives half one to unsuspicious lads, when he might give them two or even more, and win perhaps 3 matches out of 4, is just as politic in his affairs as Talleyrand or Metternich in theirs. He has the statesman's elements, 'tis plain, cheat, flatter, humbug, anything for gain. And had he trod the world's wide field, methinks, as long as he has trod St. Andrew's links, he might have been prime minister, or priest, my lord, or plain Sir David at the least. Now to the ground of golf my muse shall fly, the various men assembled to descry, 9/10 of whom throughout the rolling year at the first hole unfailingly appear. Where, how d'ye do, fine morning, rainy day, and what's the match, are preludes to the play. So full the meeting that I scarcely can, in such a crowd, distinguish man from man. We'll take them as they come. He next the wall, outside upon the right, is Mr. Saddle, and well he plays, though rising on his toes. Whiz round his head his supple club he throws. There Dr. Moody, turtle-like, displays his well-filled paunch and swipes beyond all praise, while Cuddle-heel, of slang and chatter chief, provokes the bile of Captain George Moncrief. See Colonel Playfair, shaped in form rotund, parade the unrivaled Falstaff of the ground. He laughs and jokes, plays what you like, and yet you'll rarely find him make a foolish bet. Against the sky, displayed in high relief, I see the figure of Clanranald's chief, dressed most correctly in the fancy style, well-whiskered face, and radiant with a smile. He bows, shakes hands, and has a word for all. So did Beau Nash, as master of the ball. Near him is Saddle, dressed in blue coat plain, with lots of gourlets, free from spot or stain. He whirls his club to catch the proper swing, and freely bets round all the scarlet ring, and swears by Ammon he'll engage to drive as long a ball as any man alive. That's Major Playfair, a man of nerve unshaken. He knows a thing or two, or I'm mistaken, and when he's pressed can play a tearing game. He works for certainty and not for fame. There's none, I'll back the assertion with a wager, can play the heavy iron like the Major. Next him is Craigie Halkett, one who can swipe out for distance against any man. But in what course the ball so struck may go, no looker on, not he himself, can know. See Major Holcroft, he's a steady hand, among the best of all the golfing band. He plays a winning game in every part, but near the hole displays the greatest art. There young Patullo stands, and he, methinks, can drive the longest ball upon the links. And well he plays the spoon and iron, but he fails a little when he comes to putt. Near Captain Cheap, a sailor by profession, but not so good at golf as navigation, is Mr. Peter Glass, who once could play a better game than he can do today. We cannot last forever, and the gout, confirmed, is wondrous apt to put us out. There to the left I see Mount Melville stand, erect, his driving putter in his hand. It is a club he cannot leave behind. It works the balls so well against the wind. Sir David Erskine has come into play. He has not won the medal yet, but may. Dost love the greatest laugher of the lot? Then play around with little Mr. Scott. He is a merry cock, and seems to me to win or lose with equal ecstasy. Here's Mr. Massot. He's a noble player, but something nervous, that's a bad affair. It sadly spoils his putting when he's pressed, but let him win, and he will beat the best. That little man that's seated on the ground in red must be Carnegie, I'll be bound. A most conceited dog, not slow to go it, at golf or anything, a sort of poet. He talks to Wood, John Wood, who ranks among the tip-top hands that to the club belong. An Oliphant, the rival of the last, whose play at times can scarcely be surpassed. Who's he that's just arrived? I know him well. It is the Cupar Provost, John Dalzell. When he does hit the ball, he swipes like blazes. It is but seldom, and himself amazes. But when he winds his horn and leads the chase, the Laird of Lingo's in his proper place. It has been said that at the break of day, his golf is better than his evening play. That must be scandal, for I am sure that none could think of golf before the rise of sun. He now is talking to his lady's brother, a man of politics, sir, Ralph Anstruther. For he but once in Parliament, methinks, and working there as well as on the links. The burghs, I'll be bound, would not repent them that they had such a man to represent them. There's one thing only, when he's on the roll, he must not lose his nerve as when he's near the hole. Upon his right is Major Bob Anstruther. Cobbett's one radical, and he's another. But when we meet, as here to play at golf, Whig, Radical, and Tory all are off. Off the contested politics, I mean, and fun and harmony illume the scene. We make our matches from the love of playing, without one loathsome feeling, but the paying. And that is lessened by the thought we borrow. Only today, but we shall win tomorrow. Then here's prosperity to golf and long. May those who play be cheerful, fresh and strong. When driving ceases, may we still be able to play the short putt and be comfortable. And to the latest, may we fondly cherish the thoughts of golf, so let St. Andrews flourish. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Gladness of Nature by William Cullen Bryant. Read for LibriVox.org by Bvince. Is this a time to be cloudy and sad, when our Mother Nature laughs around, when even the deep blue heavens look glad, and gladness breathes from the blossoming ground? There are notes of joy from the hangbird and wren, and the gossip of swallows through all the sky. The ground squirrel gaily chirps by his den, and the wilding bee hums merrily by. The clouds are at play in the azure space, and their shadows at play on the bright green veil. And here they stretch to the frolic chase, and there they roll on the easy gale. There's a dance of leaves in that aspen bower. There's a titter of winds in that beechen tree. There's a smile on the fruit and a smile on the flower, and a laugh from the brook that runs to the sea. And look at the broad-faced sun, how he smiles on the dewy earth that smiles in his ray, on the leaping waters and gay young isles. Hey, look, and he'll smile thy gloom away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I'd Be a Butterfly by Thomas Haynes Bailey. Read for LibriVox.org by Sherr. I'd be a butterfly, born in a bower, where roses and lilies and violets meet, roving forever from flower to flower, and kissing all buds that are pretty and sweet. I'd never languish for wealth or for power. I'd never sigh to see slaves at my feet. I'd be a butterfly, born in a bower, kissing all buds that are pretty and sweet. Oh, could I pilfer the wand of a fairy, I'd have a pair of those beautiful wings. Their summer day's ramble is sportive and airy. They sleep in a rose when the nightingale sings. Those who have wealth must be watchful and wary. Power, alas, naught but misery brings. I'd be a butterfly, sportive and airy, rocked in a rose when the nightingale sings. What though you tell me each gay little rover shrinks from the breath of the first autumn day? Surely 'tis better when summer is over to die when all fair things are fading away. Some in life's winter may toil to discover means of procuring a weary delay. I'd be a butterfly, living a rover, dying when fair things are fading away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Immortality by John Drinkwater. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. When other beauty governs other lips, and snowdrops come to strange and happy springs, when seas renewed bear yet unbuilded ships, and alien hearts know all familiar things, when frosty nights bring comrades to enjoy sweet hours at hearths where we no longer sit, when Liverpool is one with dusty Troy, and London famed as Attica for wit, how shall it be with you, and you, and you? How with us all who have gone greatly here in friendship, making some delight, some true song in the dark, some story against fear? Shall song still walk with love, and life be brave, and we, who were all these, be but the grave? No. Lovers yet shall tell the nightingale sometimes a song that we of old time made, and gossips gathered at the twilight ale shall say, those two were friends, or, unafraid of bitter thought, were those because they loved better than most. And sometimes shall be told how one who died in his young beauty moved, as Astrophel, those English hearts of old. And the new sea shall take the new ships home, telling how yet the Dimmock orchards stand. And you shall walk with Julius at Rome, and Paul shall be my fellow in the Strand. There in the midst of all those words shall be our names, our ghosts, our immortality.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. Read for LibriVox.org. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogroves, and the momroths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time his maxim foe he sought. So rested he by the Tumtum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, callooh, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogroves, and the momroths outgrabe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Loneliness by F.W. Harvey. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. Oh, where's the use to write? What can I tell you, dear? Just that I want you so, who are not near. Just that I miss the lamp whose blessed light was God's own moon to shine upon my night, and newly mourn each new day's lost delight. Just, oh, it will not ease my pain, that I am lonely until I see you once again, you only. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Mad Mother by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Read for LibriVox.org by Lee Vogler. The Mad Mother. Her eyes are wild, her head is bare, the sun has burnt her coal-black hair, her eyebrows have a rusty stain, and she came from far over the main. She has a baby on her arm, or else she were alone. And underneath a haystack warm and on the green wood stone, she talked and sung the woods among, and it was in the English tongue. Sweet babe, they say that I am mad, but nay, my heart is far too glad, and I am happy when I sing full many a sad and doleful thing. Then, lovely baby, do not fear, I pray thee have no fear of me, but safe as in a cradle, here, my lovely baby, thou shalt be. To thee I know too much I owe, I cannot work thee any woe. A fire was once within my brain, and in my head a dull, dull pain, and fiendish faces, 1, 2, 3, hung at my breasts and pulled at me. But then there came a sight of joy, it came at once to do me good. I waked and saw my little boy of flesh and blood. Oh, joy for me that sight to see, for he was here, and only he. Suck, little babe, oh, suck again, it cools my blood, it cools my brain. Thy lips, I feel them, baby, they draw from my heart the pain away. Ah, press me with thy little hand, it loosens something at my chest. About that tight and deadly band, I feel thy little fingers pressed. The breeze I see is in the tree, it comes to cool my babe and me. Oh, love me, little boy, thou art thy mother's only joy. And do not dread the waves below, when o'er the sea rock's edge we go. The high crag cannot work me harm, nor leaping torrents when they howl. The babe I carry on my arm, he saves from me my precious soul. Then happy lie, for blessed am I. Without me my sweet babe would die. Then do not fear, my little boy, for thee bold as a lion I will be, and I will always be thy guide through hollow snows and rivers wide. I'll build an Indian bower, I know the leaves that make the softest bed. And if from me thou wilt not go, but still be true till I am dead, my pretty thing, then thou shalt sing as merry as the birds in spring. Thy father cares not for my breast, 'tis thine, sweet baby, there to rest. 'Tis all thine own, and if its hue be changed that was so fair to view, 'tis fair enough for thee, my dove. My beauty, little child, is flown. But thou wilt live with me in love, and what if my poor cheek be brown? 'Tis well for me thou canst see how pale and wan it else would be. Dread not their taunts, my little life, I am thy father's wedded wife, and underneath the spreading tree we two will live in honesty. If his sweet boy he could forsake, with me he never would have stayed. From him no harm my babe can take, but he, poor man, is wretched made, and every day we two will pray for him that's gone and far away. I'll teach my boy the sweetest things, I'll teach him how the owlet sings. My little babe, thy lips are still, and thou hast almost sucked thy fill. Where art thou gone, my own dear child? What wicked looks are those I see? Alas, alas, that look so wild, it never, never came from me. If thou art mad, my pretty lad, then I must be for ever sad. Oh, smile on me, my little lamb, for I thy own dear mother am. My love for thee has well been tried. I've sought thy father far and wide. I know the poisons of the shade, I know the earth nuts fit for food. Then, pretty dear, be not afraid, we'll find thy father in the wood. Now laugh and be gay, to the woods away, and there my babe will live for aye. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Morning at the Window by T.S. Eliot. Read for LibriVox.org by Richa. They are rattling breakfast plates in basement kitchens, and along the trampled edges of the street I'm aware of the damp souls of housemaids sprouting despondently at area gates. The brown waves of fog toss up to me, twisted faces from the bottom of the street, and tear from a passer-by with muddy skirts, an aimless smile that hovers in the air and vanishes along the level of the roofs. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Often When Warring by Thomas Hardy. Read for LibriVox.org by Joanna Michael Hoyt. Often when warring for he wist not what, an enemy soldier, passing by one week, has tendered water, wiped the burning cheek, and cooled the lips so black and clammed and hot, then gone his way, and maybe quite forgot the deed of grace amid the roar and reek. Yet larger vision than loud arms bespeak he there has reached, although he has known it not. For natural mind-sight, triumphing in the act over the throes of artificial rage, has thuswise muffled victory's peal of pride, rended to ribbons policy's specious page that deals but with evasion, code, and pact, and war's apology wholly stultified. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. On the Belgian Expatriation by Thomas Hardy. Read for LibriVox.org by Joanna Michael Hoyt. I dreamt that people from the land of chimes arrived one autumn morning with their bells to hoist them on the towers and citadels of my own country, that the musical rhymes rung by them into space at meted times amid the market's daily stir and stress, and the night's empty starlit silentness, might solace souls of this and kindred climes. Then I awoke, and lo, before me stood the visioned ones, but pale and full of fear. From Bruges they came, and Antwerp and Ostend, no carillons in their train. Foes of mad mood had shattered these to shards amid the gear of ravaged roof and smouldering gable end. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
On Virtue by Phyllis Wheatley. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. O thou bright jewel, in my aim I strive to comprehend thee. Thine own words declare wisdom is higher than a fool can reach. I cease to wonder, and no more attempt thine height to explore or fathom thy profound. But, O my soul, sink not into despair. Virtue is near thee, and with gentle hand would now embrace thee, hovers o'er thine head. Fain would the heaven-born soul with her converse. Then seek, then court her for her promised bliss. Auspicious Queen, thine heavenly pinions spread, and lead celestial chastity along. Lo, now her sacred retinue descends, arrayed in glory from the orbs above. Attend me, virtue, through my youthful years. O leave me not to the false joys of time, but guide my steps to endless life and bliss. Greatness or goodness, say what I shall call thee, to give me an higher appellation still. Teach me a better strain, a nobler lay, O thou enthroned with cherubs in the realms of day. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Phases of the Moon by Eleanor Wiley. Read for LibriVox.org by JakeW. Once upon a time I heard that the flying moon was a phoenix bird. Thus she sails through windy skies, thus in the willow's arms she lies. Turn to the east or turn to the west, in many trees she makes her nest. When she's but a pearly thread, look among birch leaves overhead. When she dies in yellow smoke, look in a thunder-smitten oak. But in May, when the moon is full, bright as water and white as wool, look for her where she loves to be, asleep in a high magnolia tree. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Plague by Christina Georgina Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. Listen, the last stroke of death's noon has struck. The plague is come, a gnashing madman said, and laid him down straightway upon his bed. His writhed hands did at the linen pluck. Then all is over. With a careless chuck among his fellows he is cast. How sped his spirit matters little. Many dead make men hard-hearted. Place him on the truck. Go forth into the burial ground, and find room at so much a pitfall for so many. One thing is to be done. One thing is clear. Keep thou back from the hot, unwholesome wind, that it infect not thee. Say, is there any who mourneth for the multiple dead here? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Poetry by F.W. Harvey, read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. The poems of earth are lived, not scratched with the dirty pen. They are writ in the sense of things, and sung in the hearts of men. Sensuous strains of spring, pouring in silver flood, summer's golden delight, warming the waiting blood. Colour and scent and sound of all the changing year, these are the poems of earth, which every man must hear. Sorrow and pain and love, joy and fear and regret, these are the burning poems that all our hearts beget. These are the poems of earth that every man must pen, which you and I make up, and straight forget again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Resurgam by Kate Seymour MacLaine. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Into the darkness and the deeps my thoughts have strayed, where silence dwells, where the old world encrypted sleeps. myriads of forms in myriad cells of dead and inorganic things that neither live nor move nor grow, nor any change of atoms know, that have neither legs nor arms nor wings, that have neither heads nor mouths nor stings, that have neither roots nor leaves nor stems to hold up flowers like diadems, growing out of the ground below, but which hold instead the cycles dead, and out of their stony and gloomy folds shape out new moulds for a new race begun, shutting within dark pages furled as in a vast herbarium the flowers and balms, the pines and palms, the ferns and cones, all turned to stones of all the unknown elder world, as in a wonderful museum, ranged in its myriad mummy shelves. Insects and worms, all lower forms of fin and scale, of gnat and whale, fish, bird, and the monstrous mastodon, the fabulous megatherium, and men themselves. Ah, what life is here compressed, frozen into endless rest, down through springing blades and spires, down through mines and crypts and caves, still graves on graves, and graves on graves, down to earth's most central fires. The morning stars sang at their birth in the first beginnings of time. What voice of dolour or of mirth at their last funeral made moan? Ashes to ashes, earth to earth, and stone to stone, chanting the liturgy sublime. What matter? In that doomsday book their place is fixed. Their names are writ, each in its individual nook. God's eye beholds, remembers it. When the slow-moving centuries have lapsed in the former eternities, when the day is come which we see not yet, when the sea gives up its dead, and the thrones are set, these books shall be opened and read.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Ruined Maid by Thomas Hardy. Read for LibriVox.org by MichaelMaggs. The Ruined Maid. Oh, Melia, my dear, this does everything crown. Who could have supposed I should meet you in town? And whence such fair garments, such prosperity? Oh, didn't you know I'd been ruined? Said she. You left us in tatters, without shoes or socks, tired of digging potatoes and spudding up docks. And now you've gay bracelets and bright feathers 3. Yes, that's how we dress when we're ruined, said she. At home in the barton you said thee and thou, and the coon and they soon and t'other, but now you're talking quite fitsy for high company. Some polish is gained with one's ruin, said she. Your hands were like paws then, your face blue and bleak, but now I'm bewitched by your delicate cheek, and your little gloves fit as on any lady. We never do work when we're ruined, said she. You used to call home life a hagrid dream, and you'd sigh and you'd sock, but at present you seem to know not of megrims or melancholy. True, there's an advantage in ruin, said she. I wish I had feathers, a fine sweeping gown, and a delicate face, and could strut about town. My dear, a raw country girl such as you be isn't equal to that. You ain't ruined, said she. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Snowden by Anonymous. Read for LibriVox.org by Cavaet. King of the mighty hills, thy crown of snow thou rearest in the clouds, as if to mock the littleness of human things below. The tempest cannot harm thee, and the shock of the deep thunder falls upon thy head, as the light footfalls of an infant's tread. The livid lightning's all-destroying flame hath flashed upon thee harmlessly. The rage of savage storms have left thee still the same. Thou art imperishable. Age after age thou hast endured, aye, and for evermore thy form shall be as changeless as before. The works of man shall perish and decay, cities shall crumble down to dust, and all their gorgeous palaces shall pass away. Even their lofty monuments shall fall, and a few scattered stones be all to tell the place where once they stood, where since they fell. Yet even time has not the power to shiver one single fragment from thee. Thou shalt be a monument that shall exist for ever. While the vast world endures in its immensity, the eternal snows that gather on thy brow shall diadem thy crest as they do now. Thy head is wrapped in mists, yet still thou gleamest at intervals from out the clouds that are a glorious canopy in which thou seemest to shroud thy many beauties now afar. Thou glitterest in the sun, and dost unfold thy giant form in robes of burning gold. And when the red day dawned upon thee, oh, how bright thy mighty form appeared! 1,000 dyes shed o'er thee all the brilliance of their light, catching their hues from the overarching sky that seemed to play around thee like a dress, sporting around some form of loveliness. And when the silver moonbeams on thee threw their calm and tranquil light, thou seemst to be a thing so wildly beautiful to view, so wrapped in strange unearthly mystery, that the mind feels an awful sense of fear when gazing on thy form, so wild and drear. The poet loves to gaze upon thee when no living soul is near, and all are gone, wooing their couches for soft sleep, for then the poet feels he is at least alone, holding communion with the mighty dead, whose viewless shadows flit around thy head. Say, does the spirit of some warrior bard with unseen form float on the misty air, as if intent thy sacred heights to guard? Or does he breathe his mournful murmurs there, as if returned to earth once more to dwell on the dear spot he ever loved so well? Perhaps some druid form in awful guise, with words of wondrous import there may range, making aloud mysterious sacrifice, with gestures uncommunicably strange, praying to the gods he worshipped to restore his dear loved comrade to her days of yore. Or does thy harp, O howl, sound its strings, with chords of fire proclaim thy country's praise, and he of flowing song's wild murmurings breathe forth the music of his warrior lays, and David, Caradog, a glorious band, tune their wild harps to praise their mountain land? Thou standst immovable and firmly fixed as Cambria's sons in battle, when they met the Roman legions and their weapons mixed, and clashed as bravely as they do yet. The Saxon, Dane, and Norman knew them well, and found them, as they are, invincible. Majestic Snowdon, proudly dost thou stand like a tall giant ready for the fray, the guardian bulwark of thy mountain land. Old as the world thou art. As I survey thy lofty altitude, strange feelings rise of unutterable minds' wild sympathies. Thou hast seen many changes, yet hast stood unaltered to the last, remained the same even in the wildness of thy solitude, even in thy savage grandeur, and thy name acts as a spell on Cambria's sons, that brings their heart's best blood to flow in rapid springs. And must I be the only one to sing thy dear loved name? And must the task be mine, to the insensate mind thy name to bring? Oh, how I grieve to think, when songs divine have echoed to thy praises night and day, I can but offer thee so poor a lay. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song of the Brothers of Mercy by Friedrich von Schiller. Translated by Francis Hard. From Weird Tales, December 1926. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. With rapid pace on strideth death. No breathing spell to man is given. Midway the course, death stops his breath, and sends him to his God unshriven. And whether he's prepared or no, each man before his judge must go. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 145 by William Shakespeare. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. Those lips that love's own hand did make breathed forth the sound that said, I hate, to me that languished for her sake. But when she saw my woeful state, straight in her heart did mercy come, chiding that tongue that ever sweet was used in giving gentle doom, and taught it thus anew to greet. I hate, she altered with an end that followed it as gentle day doth follow night, who like a fiend from heaven to hell is flown away. I hate, from hate away she threw, and saved my life, saying, not you. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Spring by Thomas Nash. Read for LibriVox.org by Sherr. From Summer's Last Will and Testament. Spring, the sweet spring is the year's pleasant king. Then blooms each thing, then maids dance in a ring. Cold doth not sting, the pretty birds do sing, cuckoo, jug jug, poo-wee, too-wee-ta-woo. The palm and may make country houses gay, lambs frisk and play, the shepherds pipe all day, and we hear our birds tune this merry lay, cuckoo, jug jug, poo-wee, too-wee-ta-woo. The fields breathe sweet, the daisies kiss our feet, young lovers meet, old wives a sunning sit, in every street these tunes our ears do greet, cuckoo, jug jug, poo-wee, too-wee-ta-too. Spring, the sweet spring. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Thorn by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Read for LibriVox.org by Lee Vogler. The Thorn. There is a thorn that looks so old, in truth you'd find it hard to say how it ever could have been young, it looks so old and grey. Not higher than a 2 years' child, it stands erect, this aged thorn. No leaves it has, no thorny points, it is a mass of knotted joints, a wretched thing forlorn. It stands erect and like a stone, with likings it is overgrown. Like rock or stone it's overgrown, with likings to the very top, and hung with heavy tufts of moss, a melancholy crop. Up from the earth these mosses creep, and this poor thorn they clasp it round, so close you'd say that they were bent, with plain and manifest intent, to drag it to the ground. And all had joined in one endeavor, to bury this poor thorn forever. High on mountain's highest ridge, where oft the stormy winter gale cuts like a sigh, while through the clouds it sweeps from vale to vale. Not 5 yards from the mountain path, this thorn you on your left espy, and to the left 3 yards beyond, you'll see a muddy pond of water, never dry. I've measured it from side to side, 'tis 3 feet long and 2 feet wide, and close beside this aged thorn there is a fresh and lovely sight, a beauteous heap, a hill of moss, just 1/2 foot in height. All lovely colours there you'll see, all colours that were ever seen, and mossy network too is there, as if by hand of lady fair the work had woven been. and cups the darlings of the eye, so deep is their vermilion dye. Ah me, what lovely tints are there, of olive green and scarlet bright, in spikes and branches and in stars, green, red, and pearly white. This heap of earth o'ergrown with moss, which close beside the thorn you see, so fresh in all its beauteous dyes, is like an infant's grave in size, as like can be, but never, never anywhere an infant's grave was half so fair. Now would you see this aged thorn, this pond and beauteous hill of moss, you must take care and choose your time, the mountain where to cross, for oft there sits between the heap that's like an infant's grave in size, in that same pond of which I spoke, a woman in a scarlet cloak, and to herself she cries, "O misery, O misery, O woe is me, O misery." At all times of day and night this wretched woman thither goes, and she is known to every star and every wind that blows, and there beside the thorn she sits, when the blue day lights in the skies, and when the whirlwind's on the hill, or frosty air is keen and still, and to herself she cries, "O misery, O misery, O woe is me, O misery." Now wherefore thus by day and night, in rain and tempest and in snow, thus to the dreary mountain top does this poor woman go? And why sits she beside the thorn, when the blue day lights in the sky, or when the whirlwind's on the hill, or frosty air is keen and still? And wherefore does she cry? Oh, wherefore, wherefore, tell me why, does she repeat that doleful cry? I cannot tell, I wish I knew, for the reason no one knows, but if you'd gladly view the spot to which she goes, the heap that's like an infant's grave, the pond and thorn so old and grey, pass by her door, 'tis seldom shut, and if you see her in her hut, then to the spot away. I never heard of such a dare approach the spot when she is there. But wherefore to the mountain top can this unhappy woman go? Whatever stars in the skies, whatever wind may blow? Nay, rack your brain, 'tis all in vain, I'll tell you everything I know. But to the thorn and to the pond, which is a little step beyond, I wish that you would go. Perhaps when you are at the place, you something of her tale may trace. I'll give you the best help I can. Before you up the mountain go, up to the dreary mountain top, I'll tell you all I know. 'Tis now some 22 years since she, her name is Martha Ray, gave with maiden's true good will her company to Stephen Hill. And she was blithe, and she was gay, and she was happy, happy still, whene'er she thought of Stephen Hill. And they had fixed the wedding day, the morning that must wed them both, but Stephen to another maid had sworn another oath. And with this other maid to church unthinking Stephen went. Poor Martha on that woeful day, a cruel, cruel fire, they say, into her bones was sent. It dried her body like a cinder, and almost turned her brain to tinder. They say full 6 months after this, while yet the summer leaves were green, she to the mountain top would go, and there was often seen, 'tis said a child was in her womb, as now to any eye was plain. She was with child, and she was mad, yet often she was sober, sad, from her exceeding pain. O me, 10,000 times I'd rather that he died, that cruel father. Sad case for such a brain to hold communion with a stirring child. Sad case, as you may think, for one who had a brain so wild. Last Christmas, when we talked of this, old Farmer Simpson did maintain that in her womb the infant wrought about its mother's heart, and brought her senses back again. And when at last her time grew near, her looks were calm, her senses clear. No more I know, I wish I did, and I would tell it all to you. For what became of this poor child, there's none that ever knew. And if a child was born or no, there's no one that could ever tell. and if 'twas born alive or dead, there's no one knows, as I have said. But some remember well that Martha Ray about this time would up the mountain often climb. And all that winter when at night the wind blew from the mountain peak, 'twas worth your while through the dark the churchyard path to seek. For many a time and oft were heard cries coming from the mountain head. Some plainly living voices were, and others, I've heard many swear, were voices of the dead. I cannot think whate'er they'd say they had to do with Martha Ray, but that she goes to this old thorn, the thorn which I have described to you, and sits in scarlet cloak, I will be swore is true. For one day with my telescope to view the ocean wide and bright, when to this country first I came, ere I had heard of Martha's name, I climbed the mountain's height. A storm came on, and I could see no object higher than my knee. 'Twas mist and rain and storm and rain, no screen or fence could I discover, and then the wind, and faith it was a wind full 10 times over. I looked around, I thought I saw a jutting crag, and oft I ran, head foremost through driving rain, the shelter of the crag to gain. And, as I am a man, instead of jutting crag I found a woman seated on the ground. I did not speak, I saw her face. Her face it was enough for me. I turned about and heard her cry, "Oh misery, oh misery!" And there she sits until the moon through half the clear blue sky will go, and when the little breezes make the waters of the pond shake, as all the country know, she shudders and you hear her cry, "Oh misery, oh misery!" But what's the thorn, and what's the pond, and what's the hill of moss to her, and what's the creeping breeze that comes the little pond to stir? I cannot tell, but some will say she hanged her baby on the tree. Some say she drowned it in the pond, which is a little step beyond, but all and each agree the little babe was buried there, beneath that hill of moss so fair. I've heard the scarlet moss is red with drops of that poor infant's blood, but kill a newborn infant thus, I do not think she could. Some say if to the ponds you go, and fix it on a steady view, the shadow of a babe you trace, a baby and a baby's face, and that it looks at you. And where you look on it, 'tis plain, the baby looks at you again. And some had sworn an oath that she should be to public justice brought, and for the infant's bones with spades they would have sought. But then the beauteous hill of moss before their eyes began to stir, and for full 50 yards around the grass had shook upon the ground. But all do still ever, the little babe is buried there beneath that hill of moss so fair. I cannot tell how this may be, but plain it is the thorn is bound with heavy tufts of moss that strive to drag it to the ground. And this I know full many a time, when she was on the mountain high, by day and in the silent night, when all the stars shone clear and bright, that I have heard her cry, "Oh misery, oh misery, oh woe is me, oh misery." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Titanic Disaster Poem by J.H. Mackenzie. Read for LibriVox.org by Krista Zaleski. On the cold and dark Atlantic, the night was growing late, steamed the maiden ship Titanic, crowded with human freight. She was valued at 10 million, the grandest ever roamed the seas, fitted complete to swim the ocean when the rolling billows freeze. She bade farewell to England, all dressed in robes of white, going out to plough the briny deep, and was on her western flight. She was now so swiftly gliding in L50 and 14, when the watchman viewed the monster, just a mile from it 'twas seen. Warned by a German vessel of an enemy just ahead, of an iceberg, that sea monster, that which seamen dread, on steamed this great Titanic, she was swiftest in her flight. She was trying to break the record on that fearful, fearful night. Oh, she was ploughing the ocean for speed not known before, But alas, she struck asunder, to last forevermore. A wireless message began to spread. Throughout the mighty deep it said, "We have struck an iceberg, being delayed. Please rush to us with aid." The captain of the White Star Line, who stood there in command, was an admiral of seasoned mind, en route to the western land. The captain thought not of his life, but stood there to the last, and swimming saved a little child as it came floating past. Outstretched hands offered reward for his brave and heroic deed, but the intrepid man went down aboard, trying to rescue a passenger instead. This ill-starred giant of the sea was carried to his grave. On the last and greatest ship was he that ever cleft a wave. Gay was the crew aboard this ship, passengers large and small. They viewed the coming danger, they felt it one and all. On played the grand orchestra, their notes were soft and clear. They realized God's power on land, on sea 'twas just as near. So they played this glorious anthem, continued on the sea, and repeated the beautiful chorus, "Nearer, my God, to thee." Then silenced when the ship went down, their notes were heard no more. Surely they'll wear a starry crown on that celestial shore. Colonel Astor, a millionaire, scholarly and profound, said to his wife, "I'll meet you, dear, tomorrow in Yorktown." His bride asked a seaman true, "Oh, say, may husband go?" The echo came upon the blue. He answered, "He may, you know." This man rushed not to his seat. He seemed to have no fear. Being calm, serene, and discreet, tendered it to a lady near. "Oh, go," he said, "my darling wife, please be not in despair. Be of good cheer, as sure as life I'll meet you over there." Well could he have known this dreadful night the sea would be his grave, though he worked with all his might for those whom he could save. This man a soldier once has been of military art, proved himself full competent, then to do his noble part. Major Butt, well known to fame, a lady did entreat to kindly name him to his friends, whom she perchance to meet. He forced the men to realize the weaker they should save. He gave his life with no surprise to the sea, a watery grave. And with a smile upon his face, he turned to meet his fate. Soon, soon the sea would be his grave, in and ever after date. And Strauss, who did the children feed, had mercy on the poor, and all such men the world doth need to reverence evermore. O may the union of Strauss and wife be memorial to all men. Each for the other gave their life, a life we should commend. And may all girls who chance in life to read this poem through emulate the deed of such a wife as went down in the blue. Down, down goes the great Titanic with faster and faster speed, until, alas, there comes a burst, she bade farewell indeed. Farewell, farewell to land and seas, farewell to wharves and shore, for I must land beneath the breeze to reach the land no more. I carry with me more human weight than ever recorded before. To leave them on a land sedate, they will land, O land, no more. Only a few, you see, may tell the story of this great calamity. Husbands, wives, perhaps in glory, view the sad catastrophe. The Carpathia eastern bound for the Mediterranean Sea turned to the mighty sound, the wireless CQD. Quick was the preparation made to warn the unfortunate few, for the homeless was cold and delayed, being chilled by the wind as it blew. So to the youth through life has started, be ever thoughtful and true. Stay by the truth, be not departed, success shall come to you. Oh, may you shun the iceberg, by the dreadful work was wrought, and prosper by the lesson this mighty ship has taught. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Waking by Aldous Huxley. Read for LibriVox.org by Krista Zaleski. Darkness had stretched its color deep blue across the pane. No cloud to make night duller, no moon with its tarnished stain, but only here and there a star, one sharp point of frosty fire, hanging infinitely far in mockery of our life and death, and all our small desire. Now in this hour of waking, from under brows of stone, a new pale day is breaking, and the deep night is gone. Sordid now, and mean and small, the daylight world is seen again, with only the veils of mist that fall, dead and muffling over all, to hide its ugliness and pain. But today this dawn of meanness shines in my eyes as when the new world's brightness and cleanness broke on the first of men. For the light that shows the huddled things of this close pressing earth shines also on your face and brings all its dear beauty back to me in a new miracle of birth. I see you asleep and unpassioned, white-faced in the dusk of your hair, your beauty so fleetingly fashioned that it filled me once with despair. To look on this exquisite transience and think that our love and thought and laughter puff out with the death of our flickering sense, while we pass ever on and away towards some blank hereafter. But now I am happy knowing that swift time is our friend, and that our love's passionate glowing, though it turn ash in the end, is a rose of fire that must blossom its way through temporal stuff, nor else could be more than nothing. In today the boundless spaces of night contract, and in your opening eyes I see night born in day, in time eternity. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When April Comes by Verna Sherr. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. When April comes with softly shining eyes, and daffodils bound in her wind-blown hair, oh, she will coax all clouds from out the skies, and every day will bring some sweet surprise. The swallows will come swinging through the air when April comes. When April comes with tender smile and tear, dear dandelions will gild the common ways, and at the break of morning we will hear the piping of the robins crystal clear, while bobolinks will whistle through the days when April comes. When April comes, the world so wise and old will half forget that it is worn and gray. Winter will seem but as a tale long told. Its bitter winds, with all its frosts and cold, will be the bygone things of yesterday when April comes. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Whispers of Immortality by T.S. Eliot. Read for LibriVox.org by Richa. Webster was much possessed by death, and saw the skull beneath the skin, and breastless creatures underground leaned backward with a lipless grin. Daffodil bulbs instead of balls stared from the sockets of the eyes. He knew that thought clings round dead limbs, tightening its lusts and luxuries. Donne, I suppose, was such another, who found no substitute for sense, to seize and clutch and penetrate, expert beyond experience. He knew the anguish of the marrow, the ache of the skeleton. No contact possible to flesh allayed the fever of the bone. Grishkin is nice, her Russian eye is underlined for emphasis. Uncorseted, her friendly bust gives promise of pneumatic bliss. The couched Brazilian jaguar compels the scampering marmoset. With subtle effluence of cat, Grishkin has a maisonette. The sleek Brazilian jaguar does not in its arboreal gloom distill so rank a feline smell as Grishkin in a drawing-room, and even the abstract entities circumambulate her charm, but our lot crawls between dry ribs to keep our metaphysics warm. End of the poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Wind is Without There and Howls in the Trees by Robert Louis Stevenson. Read for LibriVox.org. by Gareth Holmes. The wind is without there and howls in the trees, and the rain flurries drum on the glass. Alone by the fireside, with elbows on knees, I can number the hours as they pass. Yet now, when to cheer me the crickets begin, and my pipe is just happily lit, believe me, my friend, though the evening draws in, that not all uncontested I sit. Alone, did I say? Oh no, nowise alone, with the past sitting warm on my knee, to gossip of days that are over and gone, but still charming to her and to me. With much to be glad of and much to deplore, yet as these days with those we compare, believe me, my friend, though the sorrows seem more, they are somehow more easy to bear. And thou, faded future, uncertain and frail, as I cherish thy light in each draught, his lamp is not more to the miner, their sail is not more to the crew on the raft. For hope can make feeble ones earnest and brave, and as forth through the years I look on, believe me, my friend, between this and the grave, I see wonderful things to be done. To do or to try, and believe me, my friend, if the call should come early for me, I can leave these foundations uprooted, and tend for some new city over the sea. To do or to try, and if failure be mine, and if fortune go cross to my plan, believe me, my friend, though I mourn the design, I shall never lament for the man. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Winter Ride by Amy Lowell. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. Who shall declare the joy of the running? Who shall tell of the pleasures of flight? Springing and spurning the tufts of wild heather, sweeping wide-winged through the blue dome of light. Everything mortal has moments immortal, swift and God-gifted, immeasurably bright. So with the stretch of the white road before me, shining snow crystals rainbowed by the sun, fields that are white, stained with long cool blue shadows, strong with the strength of my horse as we run, joy in the touch of the wind and the sunlight, joy with the vigorous earth I am one. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
This World Is Not Conclusion by Emily Dickinson. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. This world is not conclusion. A sequel stands beyond, and visible as music, but positive as sound. It beckons and it baffles. Philosophies don't know, and though a riddle, at the last sagacity must go. To guess it puzzles scholars. To gain it, men have shown contempt of generations, and crucifixion known. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.